Charles, in the vacuum of this, as we're getting this testimony today on this confirmation hearing, there's a new book that's coming out in the fall. There are several new books coming out in the fall, some of them from survivors who have not talked because they've signed book deals. One of them called Under Fire, The Untold Story of the Attack in Benghazi. James Rosen reported this earlier this week. Just some quotes that puts this all in context from people who were there about the enemy attacking the so-called protesters. Quote, they were not members of a ragtag force split into small groups which advanced throughout the compound methodically. They employed military-style hand signals to direct their progression toward their objectives. Continuing, they had been given precise orders and impeccable intelligence. They seemed to know when, where, and how to get from the access points to the ambassador's residence and how to cut off the agents, the defense agents, as well as the local guard force and the February 17th Martyrs Brigade militiamen on duty that night. And finally, but one thing was absolutely certain in the minds of each and every one of the agents in those early and crucially decisive moments, that the U.S. ambassador, the personal representative of President Barack Obama, was the ultimate target of the attack. They knew that they had to secure him and get him out of the kill zone. That is from the book, just excerpts coming out this fall.
Look, it tells you how radically untrue was what Susan Rice was peddling on the Sunday shows. And the question is, I mean, this has been, the mainstream press has tried to sort of wave away the damning evidence in the emails and how the talking points were compiled by dismissing it as a turf war between CIA and state. But that, I think, is completely wrong. A turf war is when one side or another in a government is trying to aggrandize itself, wants to get more authority and power. It's about territory. There's never an initial principle at stake. Here, what was at stake in state arguing with the CIA was who was responsible for a real scandal, the dereliction and not providing support, ignoring the warnings, and doing nothing during the hours of the attack. So it wasn't an argument between the departments over simply authority. It was over who was involved in the scandal, who should have taken the hit. And in the end, the one decision all the departments agreed on was to try to absolve the Obama administration in all the agencies of any blame by pretending that it was not a terror attack and it was the fault of a nobody, a Christian Coptic from Egypt who had done a film and who is the only person right now who is in jail as a result of this event.
It's important to point out that these agents who were talking for this book to these authors were the same agents, we believe, who were interviewed by the FBI just a few days after the attack. The FBI had the knowledge 3 days after from interviews in Germany, and one would assume that some element of the government had that as well. I want to play one more soundbite, Judge, from this hearing, just get your quick reaction. Senator Paul with some questioning and what he really thinks is behind all of this.
What was the purpose of the CIA annex in Benghazi?
Senator, I would be delighted to talk to you about the relationship between the State Department and the CIA in a separate setting, if that's helpful.
There are many of us who believe that it had to do with an arms trade going out of the CIA annex, and that perhaps people were unhappy about arms being taken from one group to another and sent to another that may have incited the rioting and may have incited the terrorist attack. But the problem is we can't ever get to the truth because people just say, oh, it's secret.
Thoughts?
He's right. He's right that a lot of people think that. He's right that there's evidence to believe it, and he's right that we'll never get to the bottom of it because of the government secrecy laws. This is profoundly frustrating to those of us that are upset by those deaths, upset by the dereliction of duty, and upset by the lies that followed it.
Except that she's offering to tell him in a classified setting.
The relationship between state and CIA.
Well, and maybe answer some of his questions.
Yeah, and then whatever she tells him in the classified setting, he can't repeat to the public. So what's the good of his knowing it?
Well, it gives you oversight.
At some point.
Congressionally, you can have some oversight. You have to trust. When a country has secrets, somebody has to look at it and decide if it's okay, and somebody also has to keep it secret. Otherwise, a country has no secrets.
Next up, Harry Reid and the Senate's nuclear option.